What's up, gang? Let's go. Filter in. Hit that like button. I shall be right with you. What's up in space? As per usual on Wednesdays, only got an hour today. Shout out to this space. Big salute to everybody over there, especially the mods and the crew. Everybody sticking around and sticking it out through the fight. I appreciate you. Thank you for making me a part of this coalition, and a big shout out to the Blunt Politics community here. What's going on, everybody? Let's bring in you guys for a quick hello. Make sure you guys get your screen time. You guys deserve it. What's up, Roxanne? What's going on, Al Yorkie? How are you? What's up, Tiff? How are you? What's going on, Deb? Good to see everybody. What's up, Jay? Alan? Twiggy, hey, what's happening, Twiggy? Appreciate you. Epstein, what's going on there, Epstein files? I gotta come up with a nickname for you. I gotta figure out something else we could call you in the chat. I appreciate you again, keeping the spotlight on those things, but we gotta come up with a nickname. Flipper, what's happening? What's going on? Filter in, one and all. Please hit that like button if you could. Welcome to the Blunt Politics Podcast. I am Boston Brian. Once again, today is Wednesday, the 26th of August, 2026. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. We're going to continue our conversation about the way in which Pete Hegseth and this regime have diminished the military's capabilities, diminished the way in which the military is seen throughout the world, and obviously its capabilities. New reporting here from the New York Times about the purging that Pete Hegseth has done at the Pentagon and how that's affected our troops. Even some turmoil going on in the Pentagon now. We have some more people speaking out, like the general that we were talking about, retired Army 4-star General Barry McCaffrey, talking about the 15 bases, U.S. bases in the Gulf that have been totally destroyed, can't go back, can't fix them. As of right now, seem to be a complete and total loss. We've continued to talk about the mental mindset of the troops over there, especially as it pertains to the people on the USS Abraham Lincoln, the things that they're going through with the problems with plumbing, the food supply shortages in general being a huge thing, and a way in which that Iran has done a good job of doing this asymmetric war, not so much having to sink or hit these aircraft carriers, but if you can cut off the food, if you can cut off the supplies that they have to get and make it so they have to travel further distances, stay out on longer deployments, then that'll have an adverse effect as well. But thank you guys for sticking around. Black Dragon, what's happening there over the Twitch? What's going on? Ali Osher on Twitch, Jupiter Judy on Twitch. Shout out to my Twitchians. How's everybody doing? Make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. If you're on Twitch, you can utilize Amazon Prime if you got both. And that way you can subscribe to this channel without having to spend a goddamn cent. Not a damn cent will it cost you to subscribe here. So you can also do that on YouTube. Free to do so. You can like, you can share, you can subscribe, and you can hit that notification bell. All for free. Not 1 cent's going to come out of your pocket. So much appreciated. Shout out to the mods. DPD, how are you? What's happening, Alvin? Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in, one and all. Rocks, how are you? What's going on, dear? How are you? Let's go. All right. Yeah, lots to talk about today. We're going to start off with a little bit of the Ontario Premier, Doug Ford's comments the other day about Donald Trump. Anytime there's a dignitary out there, anytime there's somebody in a prominent spot telling Donald Trump to kiss his ass, I think we'll play it. I think it deserves some airtime, right? I think that's kind of the way in which we want to see politicians, even ones that we disagree with politically, right? Ontario Premier Doug Ford, again, not somebody that we would agree with necessarily politically, but in terms of, hey, telling Donald Trump to kiss his ass and calling him a loser, I think we can all get behind that gravy train. So we'll start off there. And then we got some Hegseth, like I said, calling for wartime economy. I don't know if you saw any of his speech the other day, but, he's at the same time, we have all of this detriment done to our economy, detriment done to the world economy, pressure put on the systems because of this war. He's now wanting to change our entire economy as far as the military distributors and the defense contractors to like a full wartime economy. So, again, at a time where this administration, this regime came in and said that they were going to basically end all war, for lack of a better statement, they're saying that we have to, turn our economy into like a war footing, like we're in World War II. We also have Trump and Glenn Beck having one of the dumbest discussions ever. It's a phone interview, so you don't have to look at the son of a bitch. So that's a plus, I guess. We're also calling out Anna Kasparian. She's got a ridiculous moment where she's again trying to blame the what we're seeing with the world oil markets on Ukraine. like it's not the fault of Russia for starting the war, and that any kind of repercussions or any downstream effects should obviously be placed at the feet of Vladimir Putin and everybody there over at the Kremlin for starting this war. So we'll go over just a short clip of her. She thinks she's flexing. She thinks she kind of hit the nail on the head, and she's just an absolute fucking ignorant moron is what she is. And then we have another successful night of Ukrainian strikes to talk about as well. So a lot to get through, a lot to speak about. If you could hit that like button, if you could share, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all the great things that help us, get through the old algorithm monsters, that would be fantastic. But unfortunately, I want to start here before we get into, again, the Ontario Premier and his comments about Donald Trump, before we get into the coverage of the military, Pete Hegseth, and the Pentagon purges. I don't know if you guys saw any of this going around your social media feeds, but an absolute disaster we saw this morning with a flash flood, a mudslide near the Nepal-China border. This is in the Rasua district, as it says, near the border with Tibet and China, after an event early Wednesday morning caused a catastrophic flooding along the Trishuli and the Botetskoshi river system. So, I don't know if you've seen some of the videos coming out of this yet or anything, but it is wild. It's obviously devastating. A lot of people, a lot of casualties in this, and it's really horrendous to see these things, happen. Obviously with the advent of cameras and everybody having a cell phone and every business having a camera on the block, we now get to see this a lot more, obviously. So let's see here. There's a couple clips of this, and it's just disaster after disaster. You can see here the bridge. Live. Put this. Live यो चाहिँ है गाइस यस्तो लाइभ छ ओहो पुरा ड्याम फुटेर आयो यार पुरा चाइनाको ड्याम फुटेर आयो. You can see here, if you keep your eye on the bridge in the center of this, it actually gets wiped out. Clearly a heavily populated area. You can see the density of the buildings. These are some 4, 5, 6, 7-story buildings, so you can tell the level of water. You can tell how devastating this would be and is going through a populated area like this. So thoughts and prayers go out to all of the people affected by this and anybody in the surrounding areas. But there's a lot of footage coming out just to show you how devastating this is and how crazy of a situation this is here. You can see how quick the water rises too. It's unbelievable. I'll turn it down just a little bit. I mean, look at the water's just now basically touching the bridge. Just hit it there. Keep your eye on the bridge. Bridge is gone. I mean, you can see here, look at how high the water level is up on these buildings. You're looking at probably the second, or at least the third story of these buildings. You can't see anything below that. And I think, like I said, there's so much footage coming out from this. This is another one. Yeah. And I know this isn't the sea, but having lived next to the sea my entire life and having seen, impactful storms and hurricanes and nor'easters around here, the power of water. And not to say that I've seen anything even remotely close to this, but to be able to magnify what I have seen and the power of water that I have seen take place, and to kind of put it into context like this, it's almost unfathomable what this amount of water, and obviously the debris, the rocks, the stones, the rubble, the trees, everything else that's floating down with it is capable of doing. Yeah. Whoa. Why, Mati? Whoa. Wait, what? Papu yaar, Mati yaar? What? Sino bhag तो बहुत ना आएगा ना मुझे. And then there was one that really kind of drilled it home, where you could see kind of I don't know if it was a government, this one right here, where you can kind of see the government office in the background. But you can see the people scrambling here on the ground. People obviously can hear. I don't know if there's alarms going off or whatnot, but and you can see here just how much water actually is kind of. Look at you can see the power lines. Oh, you can't see it because I'm in the way, but check out the power lines going back and forth because the water coming. Here's the water. I mean, just absolutely terrifying. I mean, that looks like what's the War of the Worlds, or what's the tomorrow? So what's the end of tomorrow? Not tomorrow's the next day, or something like that. The day after tomorrow, I think it is type of shit. But something from like some Hollywood movie set. But that's absolutely terrifying there. And again, in case you're just joining us, we're looking at the footage coming out from, I believe, this morning's event on the Tibetan-China border of this devastating mudslide, landslide, flood. I mean, you can see just how much, again, debris and rocks and mud. I mean, this camera was, I mean, just to give you some context, look at where this camera was beforehand, right? So we're basically top level of this building, just to give you some context to where this water actually is now rushing, right? At the end of this video. I mean, that's insane. Absolutely insane. And I think the first reports coming out say there's about 400 or so people missing. Obviously, that is the early reports, and that's sure and undoubtedly to go up as far as the amount of people that are missing, and obviously the amount of people that are ultimately going to be lost as a result of this mudslide. But a lot of footage coming in from this.
Shit.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, preliminary reports saying this may have because of an earthquake. Yeah, Jupiter Judy saying they think an earthquake was set off, so they think this may have been a result of a nearby earthquake, causing this devastating mudslide, flood, and resulting devastation from that.
Oh shit, man. Wait, that's who? Wait, फेरेंगा माज़ बास्ती बिंगे यार. ऐसे गाड़ी में उल्टो खाची सन. आसिंगे यार. Wait, that's who?
I mean, you can see down here, this, I think, is what you'll see a video. See this building down here? There's actually a video, if I'm not mistaken, you can see from one of the other angles where the water actually makes it down to this area, down to this, where the people are, are trying to kind of run for safety as well. Let me see. There was one. Let's see if it was. There's another angle of it. Like I said, there's just a ton of footage coming from this. Yeah, this one is the one I was talking about here. This one's pretty crazy as well. So the water is going to be coming from, so basically my left, so left to right on my screen, reverse it, flip it, however you're watching on your screen. But that's kind of what you're going to be looking for here as far as, the mudslide coming. You can see the people start kind of running towards it because they're unsure of where to go. And then ultimately you can see them kind of running backwards, away from the mudslide. I'll speed it up just a touch because it's kind of a longer video. So it kind of skips too. So now you can see the crowd start, making its way, trying to make its way away from. Here's the first instances of the mudslide. You can already see the, what are these power lines, I'm assuming, or some sort of cables you can see hanging in front of the camera. They start snapping and kind of flailing wildly. You can see that one snap. Water starts making its way in. And what's even crazier, if you look just above my head here, you can actually see the pressure of the water, the force of the water from the river actually makes its way through that parking garage and blasts its way through the openings, those windows that you can see that the people are running by, and actually makes its way through the street, through those windows first. Check out the power and the force. These windows right here. See it already start coming through those windows? And then absolute devastation. Nuts. Just terrible to see. Absolutely terrible to see. Hopefully that anybody that was able to did make it to high enough ground, was able to get out of the way, out of the path of this. But like I said, undoubtedly you're going to be hearing about people missing, and the death toll of this rise. As the rescues continue, as the floodwaters recede, as people start sifting through what the hell actually took place, and kind of putting the list together as well. So lots coming up from this. I just figured we'd touch base on this. Is this afterwards? Is this a look at the after? Yeah, aerial footage shows the aftermath of a mudslide that hit Jianrong Port in the southwest China, Xinjiang Autonomous Region on Wednesday. So we'll just kind of end on this one, showing you kind of the after effects. Then we'll go on to the politics of the day. I mean, it's not really a great representation of the damage that was caused. It's actually kind of tough to tell right there what's changed, what's different at all. But from the angles that we've seen, you can tell just how devastating this was, just how many people were caught up in this, and kind of the toll that we're likely to see come from this. But a lot of people speaking about that this morning, so I wanted to make sure that we just kind of made everybody up to date and aware. And yes, it's just these natural disasters, and it's like I said, the way in which cameras have become so prevalent in our society. You're starting to get these from 1,000 different angles, from every square inch of these disasters that happens. It's a shame that we have to continue to see these people, and continue to see people go through these natural disasters through a billion different angles. But it says here that they're thinking hundreds are missing. Obviously, like I said, I think the first reports were somewhere around 400, and at least 98 people are dead. But it's almost foolish at this point to try to talk about death tolls, because like I said, as the rescues continue, and as people try to look for people that are missing, that's undoubtedly gonna go up. So but yeah, I wanted to touch base on that. I wanted to let you know that had taken place. But let's throw this on here, because again, we may not agree with his politics, but Ontario Premier Doug Ford did have some pretty spicy things to say to Donald Trump. So I want to make sure that we highlight, we spotlight, we appreciate anybody in a high-ranking position, any politician out there that's willing to speak, directly to Donald Trump, that's willing to call it as it is, call it like he sees it, type shit like this, that we make sure we normalize this. We want to continue to normalize people calling Donald Trump a loser, right? Continuing to tell him to things like kiss my ass type shit. So that's why we're going to play these couple clips. And I think this was from a couple days ago, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't want to make it seem like we're breaking any news here. But shout out to all the Canadian viewers. Much appreciated to all the Blunt Politics viewers out there, all the Bryantologists from Canada. Hit that like button if you could. Check this one out. And again, this is Ontario Premier Doug Ford talking plainly about red states and him going after red states. So let's check this out. And again, this is on the broader context of the trade war, the ongoing, rhetoric war, and the recent trade war going on between Canada and the United States with tariffs and all of that. So we'll continue to play this real quick.
Up here, red is liberal, blue is conservative. It's opposite down there, just to explain to the people. The red states are Republican, blue are Democrat, but the red states, we're going to hit hard.
Hi, Premier. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Hi, Siobhan.
I just wanted to sort of figure out your thinking about how you thread this needle with the president taking very specific aim at you in deeply personal ways.
Good.
Well, also, why is that good?
He says good.
Something, I've been in this game a lot longer than he has. I got skin on me like an alligator. And you think an insult from him hurts me? Well, bring it on, buddy.
Oh, did I turn it down a little? No, it sounds low. Oh, hold on. Maybe see I can turn it up on my end. No, it's up as loud as it can go. So my apologies, Karen. It's the shitty sound on Twitter. For some reason, it just never comes through properly.
I'm ready. Bring it on. You know something? I've dealt with guys like you my whole life. And guess what? You all become losers because you're a loser. What, Pierre?
Right. So again, that's in one of the comments from one of the questions he was asked, and then he goes on to say, pretty much to tell Donald Trump to kiss his ass
on the radio.
Again, is the appropriate response to anything Donald Trump says. Of course.
Just wondering, you sound a little more subdued than you did this morning on the radio when you said Donald Trump could kiss your ass. Did the Prime Minister tell you to ask you to tone it down a bit?
No, he didn't. I'm not going to comment, but he wasn't against that. And I have a lot of real estate on my ass, so he has a lot of room to kiss my ass. So I just do.
So again, we got to normalize, regardless what you think of their politics. If they're attacking Donald Trump, if they're speaking about Donald Trump in this way, want to make sure to normalize that. So wanted to give Ontario Premier his due, his credit for at least those statements there. Nothing else, but at least those very statements. But let's go on here to the kind of the main topic at hand, which was the ongoing conversation of the detriment done to our military, which is crazy to think because the way in which the military's been used in Trump's second term here, you would think that they would actually want strong people, strong leadership, strong military minds, people that knew what the fuck they were doing, people that understood the ramifications of going through with particular actions such as, bombing, sneak attacking Iran. Well, we also talked about Barry McCaffrey here, retired Army 4-star general, Barry McCaffrey, in his post that he had I believe it was yesterday or the day before, this one right here, August 22nd. He put this out. So we'll go over it again just in case anybody missed that episode, and then we'll kind of go on because he posted again the other day something that I think we need to go over as well. So, excuse me, he said, in my judgment, U.S. armed forces have probably permanently being a huge word in this, lost access to 15 Persian Gulf bases, okay? Let that sink in once again, in case anybody missed it. Lost access permanently to 15 Gulf bases. Okay, that's a lot of equipment. That is a lot of machinery. That's a lot of taxpayer dollars for things that we either left there to be blown up by the Iranians, or we just can no longer access because the Iranians' military capabilities in that area made us have to, basically abandon post, right? So he goes on to say that Iran now poised to control access to the two Gulf states. U.S. will negotiate new access in Western Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Southern Europe, which is something that we've already heard reported elsewhere is going on. So we talked about that, and this is not Boston Brian. This is not, people at Blunt Politics saying this. This is a retired Army 4-star general speaking on experience, speaking on what he's seeing take place in reality, the actions of the United States, the retaliations, the successes in strikes by the Iranian military, and looking at this and speaking, from that experience. So it's not me. And he's gone on to say, and he left a note to his readers. And he said, my posts are never based on classified information. I do not solicit input from active military leadership. I work tirelessly hours a day to gain an objective grasp on national security issues. My 32 years of military service included years of direct involvement with global leaders. And then he posted this. He posted this about 12 hours ago. It says, the U.S. Navy is an incredible fighting force. 20 warships and 2 carriers are deadly to the Iranians. The Navy has enormous offensive and defensive capabilities. They are well out to sea and difficult to find and or attack. The problem is logistics. So how this almost sounds exactly like what we've been saying here. Like we've never denied the skills of the military. We've never denied the skills of the soldiers, sailors, and airmen that serve in the military. We've never denied the overwhelming force and power that we've had. But what we do recognize is the leadership, and the way that the leadership has failed, the way that the leadership has thrust the military into these dangerous positions without the adequate resources, without the adequate logistics, without the adequate thinking on what the Iranians' next step may be, have put the world at risk, the United States at heavy financial risk, and we continue to see the shortened oil supply throughout the world and how that continues to be a risk. So he goes on to say here that the problem is logistics, right? Iran being able to take away access to the U.S. aircraft carriers, getting to ports to be able to resupply, thus extending their service, extending their time at sea. not getting them the ability to fix their plumbing or whatever problems they may be facing. So they have to experience those over a prolonged period of time, having mental side effects, making the people in the morale go down on the ship. So he says the Iranians have ended the utility of Army, Navy, and Air Force Persian Gulf logistics bases, which have been hammered by ballistic missile and drones. Now the fleet will be supported from Diego Garcia and the Philippines. We will disperse air power to Western Saudi Arabia and Southern Europe. The Army will harden our dispersed missile forces. We are in the middle of a strategic disaster, he says. No allies or support from the American people. So, when you have a retired four-star Army general saying that we are in the midst of a strategic disaster, pointing out again the problems with the supply chain, supplying our military, keeping our men and women safe out there, keeping them, fed, making sure that they have the everyday necessities to keep this fight going, to make sure that morale stays high. So this is just an ongoing kind of, thread that we've seen with Pete Hegseth, with his leadership at the Pentagon. And it gets even worse because we could see, let me throw this on the screen, because this was some of his comments yesterday, right? So he had I think this was yesterday, a couple days ago, my mistake. I think this was a couple days ago that he had these. And we'll just play a couple clips. And then after these couple clips, we're going to go into this New York Times article, which came out, I believe, today, if I'm not mistaken. It says, Hegseth's purge of top general leaves the Army rudderless. So at a time where we're engaged in this very important, right, very destabilizing war with Iran, is it ever a good thing to hear that the Army is rudderless? Right? Is it ever a good thing to talk about, purges of the military? I assure you, if you go back in history and look at military purges, you can see how it was a detriment to the military. And even though somehow the USSR, with its, manpower advantage, was able to overcome Stalin's purges of the military, doesn't mean that's likely to be seen, in the future with the United States here. Because, we'll go into this. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but let's listen to a few of these comments here by Pete Hegseth and call these out as well, because this is where Pete Hegseth is calling outright for our defense contractors to turn into like a wartime footing, a wartime economy, start producing like we're basically at war at all times in all areas of the globe. In a regime that said they were going to end all wars. No more foreign wars. No more forever wars in the Middle East. And now all of a sudden they need a $1.5 trillion budget for the Pentagon. They need, the defense contractors 24/7 being at this like war level pace that they need to, because of the levels of stockpiles they've already run through. Right? That's the problem that they're trying to mitigate right here, is the THAADs, is the Patriots, is the ATACMS, is the Tomahawks, all of the things that they've expended and haven't been able to replenish. And that's why they've had to, again, call off the 2 and 3 week attacks that they've done, because they were running low. They didn't have the interceptors. The Gulf allies didn't have the interceptors to retaliate, to shoot down the retaliations of Iran. So here he is calling for, again, the defense, quote unquote, we want all of our defense contractors to pivot to a wartime footing and build for victory, right? Which they have not yet since been able to achieve in this war with Iran. But, as they continue to say, it's hopeful. It's just around the corner, But here he is. Check him out.
That's why we want all of our defense contractors to pivot. And that's why we're doing this Arsenal of Freedom tour, pivot to a wartime footing and build for victory. As I mentioned, for decades, the Pentagon was hampered by bureaucracy, bogged down by burdensome and inefficient processes, paralyzed by impossible risk thresholds, and distracted by agendas that had nothing to do with warfighting.
You mean agendas like ending the wars, like ending the war in Ukraine, right? Like all of the things that you said, no more Middle Eastern wars, no more foreign wars, no more forever wars. And every time that we've looked, and every time you turn around now, the United States military is being utilized and sent into a different region of the world to try to suck up their oil, or to try to fucking kill their leader, to kidnap their leader, or to threaten an ally. Like, it's the complete and total opposite of everything that they promised. The Republicans and these war hawks and the neocons, they love this bloodlust. They love this, the warrior ethos that this guy just continues to bring up every time he gets the opportunity to do so. That's what gets him up in the morning, right? That's what literally keeps this guy ticking, is the fact that, he now gets to cosplay as General fucking George Patton out there commanding this force, and he can put on the shorts and the athletic wear, go out and do some pull-ups, some fucking push-ups, and run around with the soldiers a little bit to get to feel like one of the boys, right? Get to feel like one of the troops, and then go out there and send ultimately these men and women to their deaths, or into these really, unstable situations where they're not properly supplied, they're not properly taken care of or looked after, right? The morale isn't kept up in these ships. So here again, to call for the defense contractors now to go to this wartime footing, right? To pivot to a wartime footing is the complete and total opposite. So if there's any MAGAs in the chat, any trolls or anybody watching this later that could comment how this stacks up against what you were promised heading into this term, heading into Donald Trump's second term, I'd love to hear your response on that one. Here he is, where he's just being a disgusting bigot, much like
every dollar squandered
MAGA.
on redundancy or bureaucracy or waste.
Zip it.
It's an insult to you, the taxpayer, and it's a theft from warfighters.
I want to pause.
This is a new department with a new focus on our core mission.
No, zip it. For Christ's sakes, Pete. You speak when spoken to. But here he is, just, again, continuing the bigotry, continuing the hatred that he's espoused ever since he got into this position, right? Whether it's the LGBTQIA or, trans individuals in general, in particular, I should say. Here he is, where he says, no more trannies, just training. And then I'll go on, because I wanted to pick out just a few examples of how this guy's an asshole and how ridiculous he is and insane he is for saying this type of shit. Again, as the Secretary of Defense. Listen to this nonsense. Listen to this crap.
Every dollar squandered on redundancy or bureaucracy or waste, it's an insult to you, the taxpayer, and it's a theft from warfighters. This is a new department with a new focus on our core mission, where we're restoring the warrior ethos, and that means a focus and
Again, you will not hear a speech. You will not, never mind a speech. You won't go 3 sentences in most cases before you hear Pete Hegseth talk about the warrior ethos, okay? So just keep that in mind when we talk about the warriors we'll bring up after he says this, again, hateful, bigoted line that he has. You can even tell he's got a problem saying this. Not a problem, but he knows it's going to, cause a reaction.
Compromising focus on lethality. It means no more DEI.
Ready?
It means no more trannies, just training. It means colorblind, gender neutral, merit-based, back to basics, across the board, no matter if you're...
And the fucking irony, right? The irony of Pete Hegseth talking about merit-based anything. Like he is the one that is merit, like he's the most qualified and most capable for this position. Like the degenerate that literally could make the weekday Fox couch was relegated to the weekend Fox couch. The guy, the alcoholic woman abuser, thinks that this is like a merit-based society now, where he's the one that was, clearly the most qualified and capable person for the fucking position of Secretary of Defense, which is just, it's laughable by all counts. Well, again, let's just take a look at a couple. Not gonna lie to you, I have no idea what that was. Not gonna lie to you, no idea what that was. Something, maybe the Pentagon just zapped me. Sorry, hold on. Pentagon, this is Boston Brian over. Did you just zap me? You don't like what I'm talking about, Pete Hegseth? Well, good. You can suck on my left nut. Okay. Yep. No. If you want to zap me, but I'm going to continue talking about this. You're not going to be able to. Nope. Not going to shut me up. Okay. Yep. No. I said left nut. Tell Hegseth I said no. The left nut. Jesus Christ. Get better cell phone over there too. Bye. Okay. Thank you. All right. Sorry about that. My apologies. No, I didn't even press a button. That time I didn't press a button. That wasn't on me. So that time it was not on me. But let's go back to this, because I don't want to let it ruin the flow here, because Pete Hegseth here says no more trannies, just training. So let's just look at a couple instances that I was able to find, and I wanted to, present some recognition and show how, insanely not qualified for the job Pete Hegseth is. So I was able to find this really, really quick for just an example to show Pete Hegseth. So this is from Advocates, what's it called? Advocate.com here. And it says trans service members have always been part of U.S. history across centuries of war, bans and fighters for recognition. Trans military members have answered the call. Now they're fighting for their right to do so. And it goes on to talk about, in particular here, Emily Hawking Schilling. So the first time Commander Emily Hawking Schilling climbed into the cockpit of a Navy fighter jet after her transition, she knew her eyes. She knew eyes were on her. I promise. She knew that, and I can read. I can do this. Some doubted she would ever be cleared to fly tactical jets again. Others assumed transitioning would ground her permanently. Instead, Schilling slipped her helmet on, throttled forward, and proved that competence, not gender identity, should decide who belongs in the sky. And I want you guys to tell me, who do you think would be more qualified out of the people I'm speaking about here to represent or to run or to be in the position that Pete Hegseth is now in? Much more than Pete Hegseth is qualified to be in it. You tell me who is more qualified. So Schilling's career spans nearly 2 decades, more than 60 combat missions in Iraq and Afghanistan, 3 air medals, and a time at a test pilot flying experimental aircraft. Now president of Sparta Pride, which advocates for trans people in the military. She is the lead plaintiff in the Schilling versus United States, challenging the Trump administration's 2025 transgender military ban. Quote, once I broke that barrier of being a trans pilot down, she says, I know of a dozen aviators who were able to stay. That's $250 million I saved the Navy. A language of understanding and gender identity has evolved since Schilling first enlisted. But people outside rigid gender categories have been part of the U.S. military history since the beginning, with examples that reach as far back as the Revolutionary War. In fact, transgender people are twice as likely to have served as their cisgender peers, according to the Williams Institute. In 1782, Deborah Sampson disguised herself as Robert Shirtliff to join the Continental Army in the American Revolution. Albert Cashier, who lived as a man, fought in more than 40 engagements with the Union Army during the Civil War. Sarah Emma Edmonds, as Franklin Thompson, served in the 2nd Michigan Infantry in that conflict. Cathay Williams enlisted in 1866 as William Cathay, becoming the only black woman to serve as a Buffalo Soldier. Later generations made gender expansiveness visible. Entertainer Christine Jorgensen's transition in 1952 after Army service near the end of World War II introduced transgender identity to the nation. And she even goes on here as far as Emily is concerned. It says in 2016, the Obama administration lifted the ban on transgender service, but barriers lingered. Aviators and SEALs were disqualified because the military had never allowed transgender people to retain special qualifications. Then came President Donald Trump's 2017 ban by tweet. Schilling was nearly forced out, only to remain when President Joe Biden reversed the policy. So somebody with 60 deployments, 60 missions under her belt, again, incredible experience, incredible knowledge, only was allowed to stay in the military because Joe Biden went on to reverse Donald Trump's 2017 policy, which was a ban by tweet, where he was basically saying, and everybody followed suit, where he didn't think that trans people should serve in the military. It says others carried fighting publicly. Master Sergeant Logan Ireland, a trans 15-year Air Force veteran with tours in Afghanistan, the United Arab Emirates, and South Korea, and his wife, retired Army veteran Layla Ireland, a former medic and healthcare administrator who is also trans, became symbols of service and sacrifice. Their story was captured in the Emmy-nominated 2015 New York Times documentary, Transgender at War and in Love. Together, they showed the nation that transgender troops were already in the ranks, already deploying, already leading. And they go on to say here, Schilling is not alone in court. Talbot versus United States, a case in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, features Army Reserve Second Lieutenant Nicholas Talbot, who trained for nearly a decade to enlist before finally commissioning in January. Army Major Erica Vandal, a decorated officer and West Point graduate, and Air Force recruit Clayton Callister, 25, training for para-rescue while raising a young family, also joined the fight. I think she actually goes on here to specifically say that it says right here, Schilling contrasted her record of Trump's defense secretary as she says, I am immensely more qualified than Pete Hegseth is to run the DOD. And I have absolutely no doubt she's right about that. She says, I've led more people. I've led larger budgets than he has ever had before taking over. I'm not even qualified. So this is her recognizing that, listen, I've led bigger groups. I've been responsible for bigger fucking funds, right? More money, more responsibility. And even I'm not qualified for a position like that. So again, ultimately showing just how unqualified Pete Hegseth is. Says even director of the Women's in Service Coalition, Sue Fulton, echoes that sentiment more broadly. Quote, what we need in our military are people who have the confidence, the character, and the commitment to serve. Trans people have proven that. History has already shown that transgender people have always served. The question is whether the nation will finally honor that truth. So again, that's just one example that I found. Obviously, speaking about many more examples just within that article. Here's another one that I could pull up. This one is from soldiersangels.org. So let me go here. This is Bree Fram. Okay, Bree Fram. It says here, Lieutenant Colonel Bree Fram, active duty astronautical engineer, U.S. Space Force, highest ranking out transgender officer, currently serving, president of Sparta. It says, she has this quote here. It says, what trans people are doing every day is accomplishing the mission around the world. What they do under pressure is truly amazing. They just lace up their boots and go to work and get the job done. Given their circumstances, this is a testament to their resiliency and their desire to serve in the country they love. It says our second Pride Month highlight here. It says Bree Fram is an active duty lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Space Force and an astronautical engineer by education. She came out as transgender on the day the transgender ban in the military was dropped in 2016 under Obama. She is currently one of the highest ranking out transgender officers in the U.S. military. She is also the president of Sparta, an organization that advocates and educates about transgender military service and is dedicated to the support and professional development of over 1,400 transgender service members, of which there are at least about, I think the number roughly lies between 5,000, 4,000 or 5,000 to about 15,000, depending on who has, come out and who has kind of, divulged that information to people. So I think there's about 4,000, a little over 4,000 that they know about transgender serving in our military, transgender serving people in our military that Pete Hegseth just went on to, again, smack in the face, just went on to disrespect, say they didn't mean anything, say that they shouldn't be there, they shouldn't be serving. And we continue to look at, again, example after example here of transgender soldiers that basically are more qualified, right? I would trust with my life well more with than any time with Pete Hegseth. And that's not even the only one. There's another one here. We go to this one. This is Sherry Skwikowski, right? And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she is the highest ranking transgender soldier, retired, if I'm not mistaken. So I think here, let me see, there was a couple of the sentences in here that said this. As a retired U.S. Army colonel, Skwikowski is the highest ranking out transgender individual in the country. She was also the first individual to have her gender changed on the military service record without needing a lawyer. In June 2015, she wore an Army infantry uniform at the Pentagon, the first woman to legitimately do so since it was not until 2016 that women were officially allowed in combat positions. Excuse me, that just didn't sound like it was written correctly the way I was reading it. Skwikowski served on the board of directors for FAIR Wisconsin 2013 to 2015. In 2015, she joined the board of directors for the ACLU of Wisconsin. In 2020, at 70 years old, she earned her PhD in leadership for the application of learning and services from Cardinal Stritch University. Skwikowski continues her advocacy efforts at both the state and the national level. So again, just looking at this, just looking this up real quick before the show, I was able to find these amazing individuals, a high-ranking, very intelligent, well-qualified, overly qualified in the comparison to Pete Hegseth as far as his role. And even they say, or would say, that they probably don't have the qualifications, right? Aren't cut out for the job of Secretary of Defense, and there's no reason to think that Pete Hegseth would be either. I think, like Emily said to begin with, like, I'm much more qualified. I've been in charge and been in lead of bigger groups. I've been in charge of bigger budgets. More money, more responsibility, and even I don't think that I would be right for that role. So. Again, to kind of discount anything that Pete Hegseth was saying in that speech, I wanted to make sure that we say, and this is, again, coming in the backs of this, and we'll go into this article now, this New York Times article where it says Hegseth's purge of the top generals leaves the army rudderless. The leadership vacuum comes as the army is trying to adapt to a new kind of war dominated by deadly drones. Right. So again, this is written by Greg Jaff, Eric Schmidt, Helene Cooper, and Adam Entus. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. Came out August 25th, 2026. So yesterday. And I just want to go through just a little bit of this where it kind of, expresses the same things that we've been talking about on the show as far as the lack of leadership, the control of the quality of the military right now. It says a series of firings and feuds initiated by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has left the Army essentially rudderless as it struggles to deal with the threat posed by cheap, deadly drones and missiles that have pounded U.S. bases in the Middle East. The 15 bases that we had talked about that retired Army four-star General Barry McCaffrey had talked about. The Army has not had a chief of staff to serve as top officer since Mr. Hegseth fired General Randy George without explanation in April, and there are no signs that he is close to filling the position, said current and former officials, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss sensitive personal matters. So again, since April, the Army has not had a chief of staff. Right? Do you think that would be beneficial? Right? You think that might be helpful in a time of war? Helpful at a time where we're seeing that our actions, our sneak attack wasn't effective to the point of ending this thing within 24 to 48 hours, right? We have been dealing with the retaliations, dealing with the Strait of Hormuz. I'm just saying maybe having a capable and competent chief of staff of the military, of the Army would be beneficial. And I think it's kind of, you can see where it would hurt us not having one. But Pete Hegseth obviously doesn't find that to be important at all since we haven't had one since April, and there seems to be absolutely no sign that Pete Hegseth is ready to fill that position. Said Mr. Hegseth has forced out at least 3 senior officials who have been viewed as potential successors to General George. Army Secretary Daniel P. Driscoll, the service's top civilian leader, is also expected to leave the administration in the next few months, and has already moved out of the large family house that he was renting in Fort Myer outside Washington's officials say. So this is where I was talking about earlier that like the tensions are persistent down in the Pentagon. People still don't like, Pete Hegseth. People still don't agree with the way that he's moving the military in, moving the Pentagon in. And this Dan Driscoll is the next person that wants to be out very, very soon here. It says the turmoil comes as the Army, the military's largest service, faces its busiest period since the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. Again, a very important time that you'd think you'd want to have all of the positions stocked by very, educated, capable, competent people at all levels. But obviously, Pete Hegseth again doesn't find that to be an area that's very important. It says U.S. Army air defense soldiers are playing the leading role in defending U.S. troops in the Middle East from increasingly sophisticated Iranian missile attacks. The Army command in Europe is providing critical intelligence and other support to Ukraine as it fights to hold off a larger Russian force. Until recently, Mr. Driscoll was widely seen as a potential candidate to replace Mr. Hegseth if he decided to step down or fell out of favor with Mr. Trump. Mr. Driscoll and General George had worked together to prepare the Army for a battle teeming with drones. Late last year, the White House asked Mr. Driscoll to play a lead role in its push to secure a peace deal that would end the war in Ukraine. Those peace efforts have largely stalled. The rapid modernization push is being scaled back, and Mr. Driscoll is barely on speaking terms with Mr. Hegseth, officials said. His impending departure was reported earlier by the Wall Street Journal. I think that's this one that they're talking about. This is the Wall Street Journal, and it says here, Army Secretary expected to step down by year's end. Dan Driscoll's plan to leave follows months of tension with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. So again, talking about turmoil, tension, not good things that you want to see happening inside of the Pentagon during, again, these really important and busy times for the military, where Donald Trump sent them all over the world to do his bidding there. It says, beyond General George, Mr. Hegseth has fired or forced out half a dozen senior officers, a generation of the Army's most combat-hardened leaders, thinning the service top ranks for the next several years, officials said. So basically the same way that it takes years to refill the stockpiles, it's not just like an overnight thing. The same thing with competent, educated, knowledgeable people to lead the services, to lead these positions within our military. Like, it takes a long time to be able to make sure that you have the right person, do all the correct checks, get somebody that you align with or can work with. Seems like that this regime is having that trouble. Seems like they've pushed out at least 3 people that could have replaced General George there, as this said. So it says, quote, hollowing out the most battle-tested and most lethal proven leaders in a time of war means troops are less safe and we're less likely to win, said Representative Pat Ryan, Democrat of New York and former Army intelligence officer. A long-term worry is that the firings send a message that officers who provide frank military advice or fail ideological litmus tests have no place in a force that is supposed to be nonpartisan. Military and congressional officials said we're doing generational damage to the sense that the military is an apolitical, trusted organization that swears an oath to the Constitution, not to a president, Mr. Ryan added. Mr. Hegseth's office referred questions about the firings and lack of senior leadership to the Army. The Army declined to comment on Mr. Driscoll's status, saying it does not speculate on, quote, leadership changes. Army leaders exemplify the highest standards of duty, yada, 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 as they went on to say in their typical response to these things. One measure of the vacuum at the top of the armies is the number of four-star generals serving in its ranks. As recently as January 2025, when Mr. Hegseth took office, there were 10 four-star generals on active duty. The service currently has 5, the fewest in decades. So again, just in all areas that we look at, we're either lacking in stockpiles, lacking in leadership, lacking in capability. It's just not a good time right now to be within the ranks of the U.S. military. Obviously, the leadership above you doesn't have your best interests at heart, clearly isn't leading you down the right path, and is kind of, just exposing you to these dangerous situations without any mitigatory services to keep you safe or to keep your family safe or anything like that. So it's right in line what we knew we were going to get from this degenerate, alcoholic, woman abuser piece of shit that, again, was put into place by another, womanizing, abusive piece of shit in Donald Trump. Right. The only thing he doesn't have there was the alcoholism, as far as we know, to date. It says the command is responsible for training and equipping the Army's ground units, including the Patriot anti-missile crew. The Patriots are now the main defense against Iranian ballistic missiles fired at the U.S. bases in the Middle East. As the war progressed, Iran has become a more skilled adversary, learning to evade U.S. systems with advanced missiles that can suddenly change course. So, is that what we've heard from the Pentagon? Is that the same thing that we've heard from CENTCOM? Have they been telling us as this war has progressed, Iran has become more skilled, right? More able to be able to evade the U.S. systems, more able to be able to target the U.S. bases more adequately, more effectively? Is that what we've been hearing from our side, from our government? Because I believe I've heard the opposite as far as that's concerned. It says one Iranian missile struck prefabricated housing units at one of the American bases in Jordan on July 17, killing 3 U.S. soldiers and wounding more than 100. The Army has responded by burning through its scarce supplies of Patriot interceptors, defense officials said. And we could continue on here, as I suggest you do, in kind of learning more about Pete Hegseth and his purges in the Pentagon and how it's affected our military negatively as far as its capabilities in the way that, people around the world see them and view them, and our power projection. So we're kind of almost out of time. I'm at a weird point here where I don't have a ton of time to start everything that I wanted to go through by the end of the hour. What do you say we do? And we'll do this tonight. So we got another show tonight, which is a good thing about having 2 shows on Wednesdays. So we'll go over and we'll call out a little bit of this bullshit later tonight. I also have and will have some more updates from Ukraine later tonight as well. So why don't we see if we can just call out this bitch real quick, if I can, because, Anna Kasparian here on TYT thinks she kind of hit the nail on the head, thinks she had a banger here. The Republican ass kisser, somebody that is more favorable to Tucker Carlson than to people on the left, somebody that is a part of TYT and with side by side with Cenk Uygur has, kind of made their shift, have made it known, have kind of, buttered their bread over there with the Republicans lately and have done nothing but kind of shit on the left and turn themselves into money grubbing hacks for the Republicans at this point. But yeah, she is now going on and trying to blame Ukraine now for striking Russian oil refineries, for, again, retaliating, for trying to fight a war against an enemy that invaded a sovereign country. An enemy that came in and raped and pillaged and plundered Ukrainian towns, cities, and villages, and kidnapped literally thousands and thousands of Ukrainian children, and continues on a nightly basis to commit atrocities targeting Ukrainian civilians. And you want Ukraine to feel bad about having to, again, stop their capabilities, stop their ability to produce this war, right? If they have to go after their oil refineries, if they have to go after their, whatever they utilize for their economy, which we all know heavily favors oil and gas over there in Russia. So it's not fucking Ukraine's fault that they've been thrust in this position to look at Russia and say, okay, how can we stop them from fighting this war? Well, they utilize oil and gas. They're a fucking gas station posing as a country. So why don't we go after their oil and gas exports, oil and gas facilities and production capabilities? That will have a huge, effect on not only their ability to fight this war, to fuel their vehicles, to fuel their jets, but obviously the public will then, be brought into this. They won't be able to fill their cars with gas. They won't be able to utilize the gas to use for heat, whatever they use it for. So again, thus throwing the war back in the faces of the people that started it in the first place. But this is just a real short clip, only about 30 seconds long, where, Anna goes after Ukraine, like, oh, thank you, Ukraine, real great allies, because you're hitting those oil refineries. Like, we're having problems with oil right now. Like, couldn't you be nicer to Russia type of shit? It's like, get the fuck out of here. You can't be that much of an ignorant bitch, okay? There's no chance you could be that ignorant and not recognize that any of the downstream effects of a war that Russia started should be put at the feet of Russia, right? So fuck you, Russia, for forcing Ukraine, for making Ukraine have to, decide these things, for have to, enact these things, undertake these things to try to stop you in your war efforts. But it's not Ukraine's fault, okay? It's absolutely not fucking Ukraine's fault that these are the top ways in which that you need, you can take Russia down, or at least have a huge impact on their economy at some point in time. Right? They started this war by crossing over the border of a sovereign territory, by trying to take over and occupy a sovereign country, by, again, murdering thousands of people in a sovereign country, thus forcing, again, Ukraine to defend itself, to defend its territory, to defend its citizens. So fuck this. So check this out real quick.
Now, I should note that while the closure of the Strait of Hormuz has a lot to do with what's going on right now with the limited supply of oil, something else that's contributing to this mess is the fact that Ukraine keeps striking Russia's refineries, which is further limiting the supply.
Oh, and that fucking that smug smile that she has too. You know what I mean? That like, yeah, they're supposed to be my friend. Like, that's what you think that goes. Shut the fuck up. I can't fucking stand
of oil being traded globally. So great job, Ukraine, really helping us out, really showing Russia what's what by striking their refineries. Okay.
Again, what that even 30-second sentence and segment of her show was supposed to do? Was that just supposed to pledge allegiance to Russia? Was that just to show Russia that you're more, favorable to their point of view than you are to the Ukrainians? Was that to Tucker Carlson? I'm not sure. Was that like, hey, signaling Tucker, like, you were right when you went? Remember you went to Moscow and you said that like the bread was better? Like, oh man, you were totally right. Fuck these Ukrainian bastards because they keep striking, Russian oil refineries because the Russians are using that oil to continue their war against, Ukraine, to continue killing civilians on a nightly basis. Like, you just think it would be, pretty easy to see that it is the Ukrainians having to defend themselves against the war that was thrust upon them. And this ignorant bitch does have no idea what she's talking about, I guess, in this fight, and she just thought she'd throw this into the coverage. Yeah, I just want to tell my audience, yes, I understand that the Strait of Hormuz being closed for the last 6 months may have some tiny, small impact on what's going on with the economy here and the oil right now. But, can we also talk about how Ukraine's having to defend itself against these nightly fucking atrocities that we're seeing? And can we blame them for having to, try to stop the Russian war effort? It's just sickening to see the way that these fucking two have kind of, again, gone from grift in the left to grift in the right, and now being like the prime representatives of people on the left, to the point where even, let me see if I can bring this up real quick. I don't know if I have enough time. Let me see. Anna K, and I'll do Owen, because she was on with Owen Schroyer. We just recently played a clip of Owen Schroyer, who was talking about how Donald Trump had sold Republicans out, had sold MAGA out. Well, he had Anna Kasparian on and pretty much just kind of, filleted her and was like, oh, you're such a queen now to everybody on the right, and basically allowed Anna Kasparian to go on and shit on people on the left. So we won't get here's the longer clip here. Here's the longer episode. Owen Schroyer and Anna Kasparian full interview. the state of MAGA, democratic socialist, midterms, and foreign policy. Well, within this, and again, I won't make you suffer through it, but he goes on to kind of tell her what the right things of her and how great it is, and allows her to go on and talk shit about the left, which she happily does. But this scumbag again, Alex Jones's boyfriend for so long, his right-hand man, his buddy on the what's his fucking show? It's that insignificant where I've already forgotten what Alex Jones's little program, InfoWars, that's what it was, InfoWars. So that's Owen Schroyer on the left, who's interviewing Anna Kasparian, but she's more than happy to go on all these shows, Glenn Beck, Tucker Carlson, Owen Schroyer, and shit on the left, and then go on and try to be like, oh, I don't know why the left is so mad at me. The left just they shunned me and kicked me out. Well, good. I hope they fucking did. They should have, and they should continue to do so if you continue doing shit like this. Absolutely, no fucks given as far as that's concerned. But yeah, that's that. We'll probably bring this up a little later too for the latest show. We have a ton that I didn't get to. My apologies. I knew I was going to have a lot to say as far as the military and Pete Hegseth is concerned. So I should have known better. But we do have a lot of highlights, a lot of updates coming from Ukraine later tonight. The updates on Russian losses, the good night that Ukraine had as far as targeting Russia and the Russian resupply, oil refineries, wild berries, ozons, all of the things that we have to talk about. We'll look at the deep state map and then anything else that we need to cover as well. We'll probably dive into a little bit more of my opinions on Anna Kasparian, TYT, and them even trying to refer to Ukraine in any way, shape, or form like they know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, I don't know, stick to your lane of sucking on Tucker Carlson's nuts there, Anna, and leave the military aspect, leave the wars, and especially talking about Ukraine to the people that actually give a fuck about them. So, all right, I'm going to send it over to this space. Much appreciated to them, everybody fighting through what's going on over there. Please go over, if you're not already subscribed to this space, please make sure you go over there and subscribe to them. Give them a follow. I would very much appreciate it. Until next time, thank you guys so much. If you're here on Blunt Politics in the chat, stick around so I can thank everybody that maybe sent in $1 or $2 through the Venmo or the Super Chat. But other than that, I'll see you guys tonight. Thanks, guys. All right, so here on Blunt Politics, what's happening, guys? Let's see if we can thank anybody that may have. Let's start off with YouTube tonight. What do you say we start off? We'll switch things off. I know people don't like change, but let's see if we can switch things off. So let's go through a couple of the jewels we got. Kathy sent it in right away. 10 jewels. Let's go, Kathy. Thank you so much. Wayne, elbows up for Canada. Member for 25 months. Shout out and W's in the chat for Wayno. What's going on, my brother? Hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here. Sammy Joe, we got the 10 jewels with a gold coin. And then Brian right behind that with the 10 jewels in the W. Thank you guys so much to everybody in the YouTube chat. I still don't know what the significance of the jewels are. I don't know if they're like a shitty replacement to super chats. I still don't know. I don't know how I feel about those, but I do very much appreciate you guys utilizing any way over there in the chat to show YouTube that you're engaged and kind of, following along with what's going on. So let's get over here to Venmo, see if there's anybody kind enough or just deserves the appreciation over the last couple days, as I typically like to do. So let's see here. Brian H., you just, all channels, man. You're just hitting us up from all angles, and I can't thank you enough, dude. He says, just left Hal and Phil. I don't really drive that much, and most of the time it's motorcycle. Still takes gas, but New Mexico driving is fundamental. Also gas is tax write-off. So much appreciated, Bri. Enjoy your time on the road if you're doing any today. Thank you so much to Brooke V as well. Again, these are from yesterday. Thank you so much to Bri from yesterday, Damon from yesterday, Geneva, and Jenny Faye and Corey from the other day. Thank you guys for keeping this show growing. I will keep you guys on and moving to the next independent creator of the channel that you guys support the most. Thank you guys for sticking around, and thank you for coming back tonight, 8:30 p.m., another episode of the Blunt Politics Podcast. My name's Boston Brian. I really do, again, thank you for taking the time out of your day. I know you guys have a shitload going on. I know you guys have a shitload of choices in people that you could be watching right now and listening to right now. Oh, thank you, Carol. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. Unbelievable. Let's go. Much appreciated to everybody. Thank you to Soka Deb. Thank you, Deb, for the 200 jewels and some sunshine. Everybody deserves some sunshine in their life. So thank you guys. I didn't want to miss you. But yeah, taking the time out of your day. I know you have a lot of options. I know you have a lot of people that you could listen to. I know you have a lot of shows and channels that do great work. So thank you for taking the time out of your day and spending it here, right? So if you could hit that like button, if you could subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, that gets you through the old algorithm monsters and helps us fight through them as well. We're on our way to 25,000 subscribers. If you could help us get there by midterm elections, that would be fantastic. Thank you for your help. Thank you to the mods as well. Big shout out and W's in the chat to the mods and the best community here on social media right here at Blunt Politics. All right, tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, don't be late. Make sure you hit the like button on the way in tonight as well, and I will see you guys later. All right, anything that we missed today, we're going to get to tonight, which is why it's great to have 2 shows. That's why it's great to be able to do it. Hit that like button. I'll see you later. Peace. Yo, what up, P? Good to see you, bro. That's terrible. I don't know who the hell is doing that. That should be illegal.
Вітаю, Бостон Брайан. Мій позивний танцор. Я представник 72-ї бригади. Дякую тобі і твоїм підписникам за цей донат, за цю чудову машину, яка буде нас возити усіх на позиції, захищати Україну і наближати перемогу. Разом усі до перемоги. Дякую.
Appreciate you, Yakov. Thank you, brother.
God bless the United States.